Vanakkam. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, in whichever part of world you are residing. Happy to meet you once again and talk about heritage, iconography, temple architecture. Today is the ninth day, the Saraswati Puja day of the Navaratri festival on the eighth day. So, happy Saraswati Puja and Vijayadashami greetings to all. In this occasion, we would like to do a presentation on Saktha cult and how the mother worship evolved into a extensive Saktha cult and then took various forms and structures. This was part of a talk arranged by Eka, the one of Kankali Trust. They arranged for the exhibition of paintings of 64 Yoginis by Beena Unnikrishnan Madam, who has done an excellent job visualizing this out of her memory and out of her concentration and insight. As part of the exhibition, I also did one detailed presentation on the Saktha cult, how it evolved from the primary mother worship all the way up to primary Sakthis and then went beyond um, the multiple variations and finally culminated in the 64 Yogini cult. It was well received, and but since the recording was not available, I am re-recording this as two parts. Today, on Saraswati Puja Day, we will be seeing the Saktha cult evolution from mother god worship and evolution of the primary Saktis, Parvathi, Lakshmi, and Saraswati, and their various forms. So before we go into this, we acknowledge first the contributions by acknowledge the contributions by, as usual, the Google Hardware Wikipedia Pujari, who gives collation of beautiful content and also gives fantastic references. So, in addition, I've taken the images from Facebook articles by our friends Ravichandran, Veeramani, and others, and Kevin standard photos of Yoginis. In terms of iconography, some of the basic references from Ganapati Stavati and elements of Hindu iconography, and Srinivas Rao Sar's blog on um, Saktha cult, and the interesting book by Vidyas by Yogini culture and temples. Again, to make it into a fine story, my training at Tamil Heritage Trust, site seminars and presentations by Shankaranarayan and Ramakrishna Kongala on the iconography concepts, and the Amrita University Mayamatham course by Professor Manoj and Kankali Krishnan, they are greatly helped it. So, if this presentation is beautiful and content rich and other thing, the credit goes to all these people from whom I have taken and observed. If there are some factual and other mistakes, this might be primarily due to my lack in understanding of this concept from them. So you can feel free to feedback me in person. Now going into this, when we talk about Indus Valley, even there could have been very traces of early mother worship. When we think of the earlier Iron Age and other societies, one of the popular two forms were worshipping the unknown, the nature and other pagan worship. And the second component is the mother worship, because this is something they couldn't understand the efforts of the mother and how they bring the kids. And then they had a revered status in many of the societies, in particular when the hunter became the farmer and settled in valleys. So when you see in Indus Valley, you see a female figurine which is around 3000 to 2000 BCE. It has got a stylish fertility symbols, headdresses, and elaborate ornamentation. So this might be suggesting domestic veneration, or it might be embryonic Shakti cult, or it might be a simple doll. Possible, but we don't see any solid evidence to connect this, mostly circumstantial evidence. So taking to the next level, when I come to Vedic period, there were female deities, primarily attributing to many of the functions, like Usha for dawn, connected as later period, connected as daughter of Prithvi, and transcended to Surya's consort. Similarly, Prithvi is a deity, earth and fertility, and it was later transformed into Bhudevi. Aditi is the mother of 12 Adityas. It has been treated as it is. Vak as a speech, and this again has been merged with Saraswati at later Puranas. Saraswati primarily earlier meant a river and music. But over a period, it was transformed into knowledge and wisdom and merged with Vak. Nriti again is death and sorrow for invoke to strength and protection. So later period, it all the similar ones like Nriti, Lakshmi, Tavai, and Domavati, Arati, all this merged into one class of negative connotation deities. We also had Ratri as a female deity and Shri as a royal or auspicious. And this evolved into lotus and elephant to a Lakshmi. Ambika as the wind, and she was identified as spouse of Rudra. Rudra is the god of the wind there. And then later, she was transformed into Parvati as the consort of Shiva, where Rudra and others become all pervading Shiva. So, to sum up, the females did not have a primary role in the Vedic deities, but at the same time, they also played critical role like Usha with four hymns. And then these are transformed into new names and new forms with addition of extra deities. Now, let us come to the next level. In the Bronze Age, 800 BCE, in Adachanallur, we find a figurine. So this figurine is like this. It is unearthed in Tamil Nadu's Iron Age burial in Adachanallur. It is depicting a robust and stylish form, elongated torsos, beautiful sash, and then fantastic dress. It is very, very similar to the terracotta figures that are found in Harappan civilization. It shows the continuity of usage of that form and maybe worship of the form. So this is how it looks from back. See how beautiful it is structured at that age. And when we see the next level, that is the first BCE and other things. The mother worship continued in the anthropomorphic form, that is in a symbolic form. This is available in Motur. It is called Visripare. It is worshipped by the local villagers and tribals. They apply vermilion and other things, and then they worship it as a mother. So this highlights how the earlier mother worship slowly is getting transformed into the idol kind of an worship, and this along with stone worship and crane worship expanded into temples. Coming to the first 4th, 5th centuries, we see a lot of Laja Gauri is the female form where the head is plural and she is sitting with her legs widespread and her birth organ shown visible. And this is consistently projected as a tantric fertility symbol. And here you can see this getting associated with the two of the primary gods, the linga form of Shiva and your Narsinga form of Vishnu. Again, when more gods are added, this also gets included in the plaque, where in Panchayatana plaque in Govada in Prakasam district, this is in 4th century, you can see Muruga, you can see Narasimha, you can see Linga, and you can see the Machadara. Again, along with the linga, you see the Laja Gauri here. So that concept was earlier recorded, and this is the refined form of Laja Gauri, which was in the Chalukya period. See the detailed carving of the flower and other details, body parts and ornaments. So, mother worship getting slowly transformed into various dimensions of Gauri, Parvati, and other consorts, and then they get tied to the popular male gods as consorts. Now we are seeing from Tamilian reference, we are seeing the Sangam period. In Sangam period, we had 5 lands where for each land a separate deity was assigned. Here, in the barren land or valley or the arid land, desert, Kotravai is designated. The barren land is full of waylayers, robbers, and other fighting clans who worshipped Kotravai before going into any hunt and then submitted their offerings after a successful raid. So this is the initial Pallava period, pre-Pallava period form of Kotravai. And this is the Mahabalipuram form of Kotravai. And this is the Aihole form of Kotravai, where it slowly getting transformed into Mahishasuramatiri. You can say this, just killing of the elephant or killing of the Mahisha is getting elaborate with far and far more details. What is interesting in this earlier forms is Kotravai is having 2 Vaganas, one lion and the antelope. Black buck. The black buck was the original Vagana. Later on, during Pallava period, both are present, the lion as well as black buck. Slowly over a period, the lion eats away the black buck and it only remains the primary Vahana of the transformed Mahishasuramatiri. Again, during earlier period, the parrot was also part of the iconography, which keeps on missing here. The interesting part is the sacrifice by people. Here you can see in both this, one person cutting his head here. And then this is called in Tamil, Arikantam, cutting your head, or Navakantam, where you cut your body into 9 parts for offering to the god, for fulfilling a vow, or for some purpose. So this is how a desert god gets transformed into Mahishasuramatini and later refined into a Saumya form of Parvati and others. Again, there is another interesting variation of mother god, Jyeshta Devi. It is called Tavai in Tamil and Dhumavati in North India. So basically, the fertility god gets expanded into a mother with a heavy belly, bloated and spread legs, and son and daughter. So earlier times it has been worshipped for dual purposes, and even now it is um, part of Dasa Vidya. This appears in Baudhayana Durga Sutra even during the early period, and it is said to be born along with Lakshmi during the Samudra Manthan when they churned the milk ocean to get nectar. Around 7th and 8th century, in many of the Pallava period temples and the early Chola period temples, this was one of the popular deities and a part of the standard set of 8 Parivara Devatas. So, when we talk about Parivara Devatas, so in all cardinal and diagonal corners of temple, there will be specific deities put in many shrines. Here in the northwest subshrine, Jyeshta used to be installed. Even now, we can see in some of the old temples, like the one in Kolli Hills, Arapaleswara temple. In the northwest corner, you can still see a Jyeshta Devi shrine, and which is being worshipped. But where are they now? They are vanished. This happened slowly. Vaishnava Alvar saint, Tondaredi Podi Alvar, during 9th century, he said, these foolish deities are worshipping Jyeshta, who keeps them away from the truth. And when Narayana is there, why Jyeshta Devi is needed? So slowly Vaishnavas started rejecting Jyeshta Devi, and there was a fight with the Shaivas at the time. So Shaivas also said, are we inferior? They also stopped their worship, and these idols were taken out and left outside the temple. Even now, in many temples, you can see Jyeshta Devi idols outside the temple, just dumped or with minimal puja by some devotees. So this is the fate of a grand old heritage Devi. Now, from Vedas and from after Vedangas, when the Purana started, there were a lot of consolidation of these iconographies, and then they consolidated into a fixed set. And this was talked about in Puranas, and based on this, a lot of Puranas were also built in with iconography. The basic one is the Durga, which evolved from Kotravai and Mahishasuramartini. So this is the apex, and this evolved into Nava Durgas, 9 different devis to vanquish various asuras. Other variation is the Saumya consort of Parvathi with multiple variations and Dasa Maha Sakthis performing various forms. This is expansion of the Saktha cult. And again, Saraswati, which was a river, was expanded into a concept of Brahma and responsible for wisdom and knowledge. Similarly, Sri was expanded, transformed, and then put up as consort of Vishnu, responsible for wealth and money. Gayatri was consort of Brahma, and she is mother of all mantras. Similarly, the divine rivers, which Saraswati was earlier part of, all the other divine rivers were worshipped as feminine gods like Ganga, Yamuna, Kaveri, Godavari. And there are some, these are Saumya rivers. There are some violent rivers like Brahmaputra and few others, which are termed with male concepts. And finally, the Saptamatrika concept, which was the power of the male gods represented in feminine forms, like Indrani or Chanda or many of the other forms. So this sun mothers has been a very old concept where the village deities and the village things merged with the Puranic deities, and Saptamatrikas are also still worshipped in villages. The final concept is the 64 Yoginis, where each of the Saptamatrikas, which were created to assist Durga, They create their own 8 assistants. These are included, if you see the combination, it's a huge collection. And this includes the earlier forgotten Vedic deities and also a lot of regional village deities. The definition of 64 yoginis varies from region to region and also from some of the Puranas to other Puranas. So, this is a set of female deities which evolved over the Puranic development. Here we are going to see up to this, the first 4, and in the next session, we will be seeing the remaining ones. When we see Saktha as a cult, earlier multiple worships were there from the Vedic period, and during the Puranic period and other things, these aligned into 6 different cults: Shiva, Vishnu, Saktha, and then Kaumara, Kaurav, and Ganapatya. So this had their own agamas, how to install, what kind of thing, how to reach your primary god, and then how the temple need to be done, what is iconography, rituals, all these details, they had their own separate ones. And there was also another concept in the north which came into this one, where for personal worship, we have the Panchayatana concept, where your Muruga is not included. The other 5, whatever is your favorite deity, you keep it in the middle, and the other 4, you keep it around it, and then do the personal worship. So, to expand this, out of the 6, the most extensive ones are Shiva and Vishnu, and next extensive documentation and rules, rituals is on the Saktha cult. But again, when it comes to forms and representation, Saktha cult takes the cake. So basically, these agamas are called tantras, where Sakthi is a supreme power and the ultimate Brahman. And they utilize mantra, yantra, tantra, puja, homa, and kundalini yoga as various parts of Devi worship. So we have around 64 Saktagamas and 27 Yamala texts on rituals. So Rudra Yamala Tantra, Brahma Yamala Tantra, it is highlights Mahavitya worship. Kular Tantra is a Kaula tradition covering how the worship is initiated, how to do sadhana, and the internal integration alchemy. So Maha Nirvana Tantra and others talk about universal worship and Sri Vidya practices. There are Yamala text. Yamala text is ritual content along with the sexual related rituals also. So basically the worship also comes into the yantras, which are a combination of triangles, squares, circles, and padmas. So by putting the right kind of yantra, you can worship and you get the relevant set of benefits. That is the concept. In addition to icon, this is another form of worship. So there are a lot of Sakti-oriented Puranas, which has integrated the mythology and others. So the key one is the Devi Mahatmya, which is inside the Markandeya Purana. So that is the foundation. And later on, there are many texts like Devi Bhagavata, Kalika Purana. It expands into the local regional cult, the concepts that are mentioned in Devi Mahatmya. So you can see that between 7th and 12th century, lot of Puranas expanded from the basic Markandeya Purana, Devi Mahatmya. We have Brahmanda Purana, that is where the Lalita Sahasranamas. Sorry for the interruption. So, we have Varaha Purana, where Devi Arjun Saptamatrika are mentioned. In Kurma Purana, it talks about the rites and temples. Skanda Purana talks about Devi Kandam, which details about the Devi rituals. Devi Bhagavata Purana is only focusing on Devi worship. And the Kalika Purana is Tantra of Kali, temple consecration and other details, which is regional. And the Maha Bhagavata Purana is expanding the Saktha cosmology to multiple areas, and a lot of regional variations are included. So around 12th century, it's a fairly established Saktha Kanta available. And interestingly, this is where 10th century in Tamil Nadu, after 10th century, this is where you get separate temples for Aman or Sakti. Otherwise, in the temples, in the sanctum, along with Shiva, it is assumed to be part of the Linga as Sakti. Only 10th period, 11th, 12th centuries, separate sanctums for Sakti started evolving. So when we talk about the second level, after Puranas, in Tantras, we have 7 Saktha Tantras, and these are the backbone of the Tantras. We got the cosmology, the mantra theory, the various deity structure, the rituals, and also the tantric manipulations. And it also talks about the Yoginis. You also have several key secondary Saktha things, which are frequently cited by the Varahi Tantra and other ritual things. It talks about very specialized mantras, mudras, and protective rites for protection as well as offensive actions. So you can see the Pratyangri Tantra and then Hara Gauri Tantra, which are focused on very specific concepts and specific ideas. Now, the first variation in Shakti, Parvati, the prime concept, is a Dasamaha Vidyas, where it talks about the various powers of Dasamaha Vidya. It is mentioned in Tantra Sara, Devi Bhagavatam, and Kalika Purana as well as Brahmananda Purana. They talk about Lalita Tripura Sundari as the absolute head of Mahavidyas and how the various functions are handled by 10 forms of Shaktis. So they call it Dasa Mahavidyas. So these are the 10 forms of Sakti or Vidyas. You can see them one by one. The first one is the Kali, the primal one, who is an ferocious form, and then who dances on top of Shiva, clearly showing who is supreme. Then the second form is Tara, the deliverer, who again is a ferocious form. Third one is a Sodasi, the younger and the ever pleasant one. This is the Tripura Sundari, and the the head of the Dasa Vidyas. Next comes the Bhuvaneshwari, the mother, and after that, the Bhairavi, educator. And we have a very fierce form of Chinna Masta. Chinna Masta, Masta means head, Chinna is cut. So, a ferocious form with his own head cut, and the blood spouting from there is getting drunk by all three of them. Then is another interesting form which we have seen earlier in our things, which is Dhumavati, which is equivalent of Lakshmi or Jyeshta. So it is a widow form. And the next is Bakalamukhi, who paralyzes the demons and then by putting their tongue in and then hitting them with a club. Then final two Saumya forms. The first one you can see very familiar. This is Matanki, this is not Saraswati, and this is a tantric form of Saraswati. Similarly, the next one is also very familiar to you, but it is not Lakshmi, and this is Kamala. This is a tantric equivalent of Lakshmi. So, this is how the Shakti cult worshipped 10 different forms, different functions of Mahavidyas. Let us go a little more detail into this. These 10 Mahavidyas, like I said, have been attributing the primary attribute of the primary origin, the deliverer, the Sodashi, mother of the world, educator, Prachanda Chandika. Prachanda Chandika means ferocious, and the widow form, paralyzer, Tantric Saraswati, and Lakshmi. Again, by some of the Tantra, Todala Tantra, they also associate this with Dasavadaras. So that is another variation. Normally, these are linked to primary Sakthi, Parvathi, but here they are also linking it to Dasavadaras. And again, each one has got a control over a specific planet, and then they rule over a specific direction. So it has got a clear role and the division of the entire universe among these Dasa Mahavidyas. Now, the next one is a Durga, Mahishasuramartini, Durga, when he was fighting with Mahisha. She transformed into 9 forms, every day maturing, and continued the fight for 9 days. At the end of the 9th day, there is a victory and Vijayadashami, and it was celebrated. So, what we see here is a beautiful depiction, modern day depiction by painting by one of the greatest budding artists. He has written a lot of fantastic what if paintings. We talk about AI now. He is the BI, beautiful intelligence, where he visualizes things in a very perfect way and puts it into painting. And his historic painting series is a great joy to watch. So I'm taking one of his examples. This example shows all the Nava Durgas coming together and then standing into a pose without their vaganas and other things. So this is an interesting concept. So let us see what are the Nava Durgas. So they also represent the growth of a girl from a baby up to getting moksha or the soul. So 9 stages, 9 days, and 9 transitions. So the first one is a Shailaputri, the daughter, and then next one, the Brahmacharini is as a Tapasvi. Third one, Chandrakanta, he gets married, and Kushmanda doing creative stuff, and by Skanta Mata, he becomes a mother, and then Katyayani becomes a warrior to protect and fight the Dharma. and Kalaratri is a destroyer. Finally, doing all these things, you gradually meditate and then become pure Mahagauri. And Siddhihatri, you become the perfect one, and then who attains the ultimate level and then goes into moksha. So this is typically a life cycle of a girl from here to here. This is beautiful explained. Let us see how they fit in into this. This is mapping as per my understanding. This might be wrong. I need to check with the artist and confirm. So first one is Shailaputri with the Sula and the Maru. And second one is a Brahmachari with the Kamandala and this one. Third one, the married person with Ganta and Amara. And fourth one, Pushmanda, here with the honey pots and Tamara. Fifth is a Skanda Mata with Skanda on the lap. Sixth one is Katyayani, the warrior with the sword. And the seventh one, the Kalaratri, the darker version with a sickle axe. And eighth is Mahagauri, a representation of Vishnu also. So he has got Gada and Padma. The final perfect one is the Siddhidatri, the ninth form. So this Navadurgas is the culmination of victory of female power or motherhood over evil. So this is how it is projected, and this is the basis for the Navaratri celebration, where all the West Bengal and others speak out with grand pandals and celebration, and then with the deities representing multiple forms. In India, we can have two grand celebrations where the iconography goes out of the window. One, the Ganapati festival in Bombay. The second one, Durga Puja in Calcutta. Where Durga takes a lot of forms in alignment with the modern culture and the modern significance. Having seen the Sakthi forms of Parvathi, now we are seeing the wealth forms, Ashta Lakshmis. So from the basic Lakshmi, who is the goddess of wealth, who evolved from Shri and later on tied to as consort of Vishnu. This Lakshmi is again classified into 8 sources of wealth: the spirituality, material wealth, agriculture, royalty, knowledge, courage, potency, and vigor. So let us see them one by one. One is the basic spiritual Adi Lakshmi. The second one is the Dana Lakshmi, agriculture, material wealth, Dhanam. And next one is a Dhanya Lakshmi, agriculture. Third one is a Gaja Lakshmi, who rules everybody. Second one, Santana Lakshmi, where it gives kids and then royalty. Then it is the Dhairya Lakshmi, where it gives courage and victory, Vijay Lakshmi. And Vidya Lakshmi is again knowledge and then projects. So these 8 forms of Lakshmis are worshipped for specific wealth creation. In Chennai, there is a concept of beautiful apartment of gods. For Vishnu, 3-tier temples are there, where in each tier different forms of Vishnu are there. So there is a temple in Uttaramerur where 9 forms of Vishnu are available in a single Vimana. So in 1976, On the same model, in Chennai, Besant Nagar, they have built a Ashtalakshmi temple with for ground floor 4 Lakshmis, first floor 4 Lakshmis, on top 1 Lakshmi. So total 8, and in central Vishnu. So total 9. 9 deities. There is a beautiful temple. When you visit Chennai, Besant Nagar, Ashtalakshmi temple, don't miss it. Having seen Parvathi, Lakshmi, the next one is the consorts of Brahma, Gayatri, Saraswati, Savitri. So here we can see all the three. First one is Saraswati, Chakra and Padma, and then Shankha and Gada, seated on shoulders of Garuda. So it is a Vishnu representation. And Gayatri Devi is with 5 heads and 10 arms, and seated on a Kamala. The third one, she is the chief of all Vedas. Savitri is knowledge, and the right arm holds Trishula and Japamala, left arm again holds Agni, and the goddess is seated on a Rishabhavagana. So you can see that there is a combination of Vishnu, there is a combination of Shiva, and then there is a combination of Brahma also. So these are the three concepts of. So with this, we conclude our first part of the Saktha cult, where we have covered the basics and we have covered the 3 prime Shaktis, Parvati, Lakshmi, and Brahma's Saraswati and Brahma's concepts. To sum up, from historical period, the Harappan figurines to the classical temple deities, the Devi has been remaining very, very central in the religious history. So from being a mother god, she has taken multiple ferocious, Saumya and common forms. And each form, as a Matrika, as a folk mother, or a cosmic consort, or thing, it ensures that the multiplicity of Sakthi is prevalent across time and region. So it is a consistent concept across multiple regions. The Vidya worship or the Saktha cult has evolved over its own agamas, iconography, shastras, and highlighting the hierarchy, and it has evolved into a very, very well-developed feminine worship by 12th century. So this also continues into modern world now, with the women taking leadership in multiple areas. Many of them hitherto has not been explored, and then they have been excelling in them. As a fighter pilot, as an astronaut, and as a loco pilot, everywhere where people said women cannot enter, they have been entering, and they have been excelling in this. That's the beauty of women power. So with this, we conclude our first part. In the next part tomorrow, we will be covering the Saptamatrikas, the river goddess, and the 64 yoginis in great details. So by then, till we meet again, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel, Babu for Heritage. You can share your comments there. And this contains my presentations as well as 70 plus playlists on different heritage subjects containing very, very qualified and excellent videos by experts. So thanks for watching this part 1 of Saktha cult on an auspicious day of Saraswati Puja. The next part on continuation of the Saktha cult in terms of Saptamatrikas, river gods, and 64 yoginis. will be available tomorrow on Vidyas. Thank you for the support and continue spreading the heritage awareness.